I can't walk to my car late at night while on the phone. I can't open up my windows when I'm home alone. I can't go to a bar without a chaperone. I can't wear a mini skirt if it's the only one I own. I can't use public transportation after 7 p.m. I can't be brutally honest when you slide into my DMs. I can't go to the club just to dance with my friends, and I can't ever leave my drink unattended. But it sure is a scary time for boys. Yeah, gentlemen, band together, make some noise. It's really tough when your reputation's on the line, and any woman you've assaulted could turn up anytime. Yeah, it sure is a scary time for guys. Can't speak to any women or look them in the eyes. It's so confusing. Is it rape or is it just being nice? So inconvenient that you even have to think twice. I can't live in an apartment if it's on the first floor. I can't be wearing silk pajamas when I answer the door. I can't have another drink even if I want more, and I can't make you feel invalid, unseen, or ignored. I can't jog around the city with headphones on my ears. I can't speak out against my rapist after 35 years. I can't be taken seriously if I'm holding back tears, and I can't ever speak earnestly about all these fears. But it sure is a scary time for dudes. Can't text a girl repeatedly asking for nudes. Can't make her have sex when she's not in the mood. And what gives her the right to give you attitude? Yeah, it sure is a scary time for men. Girls like to act like you're to blame and they're the victim. Her dress was short and she was drunk, she's not so innocent. Good thing your dad's the judge and you won't be convicted. Wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense at all. That's really, I need to rewrite this song. I guess it's not such a scary time for boys. They've always had the upper hand, they've always had a choice. It's time for women to show up, use our collective voice. We've got to vote to make a change, so let's go make some noise. Thank you. Hi. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lynzy Lab, and I wrote that song in a couple hours about 2 months ago while sitting on my couch in my pajamas. I recorded a video of myself playing it that night and posted it on social media. And over the next 3 days, that video received over 60 million views worldwide. And I had a slew of journalists and news reporters and agents and fans, which is still really weird to say out loud, calling me and emailing me nonstop. I wrote it on a Sunday night, and by Thursday afternoon, I was doing it in front of a live studio audience like this, on national television, though. That's me doing that on Jimmy Kimmel Live. It's weird. But wait, don't hold your applause, because I messed up and I had to stop and start over because I was so nervous. And I don't know if you can tell, but my heart has been racing this entire time. It's likely that it won't stop racing until well after I've left the stage. And if I'm being really honest, the building. And if I'm being really honest, probably the country. You see, I am a dancer. I have literally spent my entire life training to use my body to speak for me so that I never have to actually talk on stage. Even when I'm teaching dance, I'm always nervous I'm going to say the wrong thing. I've never given a speech before, not even at my own wedding, and I dread those getting to know you exercises where you sit in a circle and you have to say your name and something interesting about yourself. So as you can imagine, I am in this moment experiencing intense anxiety and fear. And I'm doing it. I'm doing it anyway, and that's what I'm here to talk about. I don't consider myself a singer-songwriter. My hobbies include painting and playing songs on the ukulele, but I have no formal training in either of those things. I do them for fun and as a way to express myself creatively. So why did my song go viral and land me on national television in under a week? Well, I had two main things working for me. The first was timing. When I wrote it, an accused sex offender had just been sworn in as Supreme Court Justice, and I was having a really difficult time digesting that news. It was a cathartic experience for me to be able to channel my emotions through my art. And so I posted it in hopes that it would help other women in my life and survivors of sexual assault deal with what felt like a huge betrayal and setback in our fight to have our voices heard. As women, we are conditioned to believe that our voices don't deserve to be heard, that our opinions and ideas don't matter as much. And by sharing mine so deliberately and unapologetically, and by rallying for other women to do the same, I created a call to action at a time when it was most needed, right before the midterm elections. The second thing, thank you. The second thing I had going for me was my ability to disregard the other voice, the one in my head that said, yo, your song is not that great, and you're gonna get a lot of crap for posting it. It was my ability to muffle that voice long enough to press share. I shared. I made a thing that I believed in, that was true to me and very personal, a thing that was not expertly written or performed, and a thing that I knew a lot of people would disagree with. And despite my fear, which was substantial, I shared. And then a lot of other people did too. Yeah. I teach dance at Texas State University throughout the school year. Go Bobcats. And in the summers, I teach at a wonderful nonprofit organization called the Performing Arts Project. My job as an educator is to teach my students how to sharpen their tools and to prepare them for a future in the arts. But that's not all. It's also my responsibility as a mentor to inspire and empower them by making sure that they feel safe and heard, by helping them find their voices through their art, and perhaps most importantly, to remind them that they are worthy of love and respect as humans, regardless of how they or anyone else perceives the art that they create. And that one is tricky, because art is an expression and an extension of self, and that requires us to be very vulnerable. And when your art holds your identity and your self-truth, then criticism of your art can feel a lot like criticism of you. So when someone says, this art lacks substance, it is unsatisfactory, what we hear is, the artist lacks substance, they are unsatisfactory. Ouch. So how do we get rid of the fear of judgment? The short answer is we don't. But the good news is we can learn to not take it personally. There are two types of opinion-based criticism, constructive and projected. Constructive criticism is objective and usually well thought out, and while it's not always accurate and sometimes unsolicited, its purpose is usually to help improve. When we open ourselves up to constructive criticism, even if we decide ultimately not to apply it, we gain a broader perspective, and that is conducive to growth and improvement. Then we have projected criticism, my favorite. You can find many examples of this type of criticism. Oh, that was constructive. See, this is my first time giving a speech, especially with slides. I don't know what I'm doing. That's constructive criticism. Then we have projected, and you can find many examples of that type of criticism here. Trust me on this one. Simply put, projected criticism is an emotional response, usually triggered by whatever the giver is feeling at the time. And unlike constructive criticism, it is not designed to help. If the criticism is positive, that means that the giver has had a positive emotional response. We usually refer to this as a compliment. If it's negative, then that means the giver has had a negative emotional response, usually brought on by feelings of inadequacy or insecurity. It can be particularly difficult to not let these comments get to us because we want to take the compliment as truth. Our subconscious allows us to accept the negative feedback as truth too. But since these are merely projections, then this type of criticism really only serves to benefit the giver and not the receiver. So if we can think of constructive criticism as a useful tool and projected criticism is really none of our business, then we can begin to defy the notion that these comments are in any way a reflection of us. Okay, so what about the general fear of the unknown? The jumping from the high dive blindfolded when we're not really sure we know how to swim. Well, instead of thinking of it as turning off our fear and on our bravery, we have to remember that bravery doesn't replace fear. It coexists with it. Without fear, then there's no need for bravery. We have no use for it. So it's not about pretending we aren't afraid. It's about seeing the fear, acknowledging it, accepting it for what it is, and then doing the thing anyway. And when you do that, when you run in the direction of what scares you, when you speak louder than your fear, you take its power away. A wise woman by the name of Maggie Kuhn once said, "Speak your mind, even if your voice shakes." And when I did that, I realized that not only can my voice be louder than my fear, it can be loud enough to reach 100 million people. It can be loud enough, shaky as it may be in the process, to change the world. I was terrified to come here and do this today. But another part of my job is practicing what I preach. I'm still terrified. I'm shaking. But more than that, I'm grateful to have had this opportunity to come and show up and speak to you and spread this message. And I hope that in doing so, I have been able to inspire you to use your shaky voice to speak louder than your fear. Thank you.